You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. The Option Block is brought to you by Tasty Trade. You take the unbeaten path. You root for the away team. You wear shorts in winter. You don't put ketchup on a hot dog. So why wouldn't you trade with a broker that lets you go your own way? Tasty Trade. Stocks, options, futures, and more. You choose. You trade. Chart moves with hundreds of custom indicators. Stare at the candles till you see them in your sleep. See it, click it, trade it on mobile, web, or desktop. Supported by a trade desk that knows how traders think. The data, the tools, the knowledge. Get what you need to make smart moves. Go to tastytrade.com/pod to see for yourself, genius. Tasty Trade Incorporated is a registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA, NFA, and SIPC. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back. It is time to rock out yet another broadcast week here on the old network. Yes, it is time for the OB. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. Remind you of a couple of things here at the top of the show. First off, if you like what you hear, throw a like, a star, a comment. B, if you're not listening to the full network, man, you are missing out. And speaking of missing out, C, of course, if you want to go above and beyond, join us for awesome pro Q&As for Options Oddities. Man, to say it was a banger is underselling it on Options Oddities this past week. We went deep. We went crazy. We had the Oracle of New Hampshire joining us, just throwing out trades fast and furious there on the show. It was a wild time. If you haven't listened to Options Oddities, might be time to start. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more as we learn who's joining us on the old program today. First, out to the dark and stormy shores of Maine. There we go. Dark and stormy shores of Maine, where we are joined once again by the rockingest of options, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. Then we dial a little bit closer to home to the hinterlands of Chicago, where we are joined by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Gentlemen, get your hands on your buzzers because it is time for our 80s Trivia Challenge. Here we go. All right. We got a bit of an audio daily double here today, listeners. Let's turn it up a little bit for you guys. There we go. All right. This is the soundtrack to an iconic video game from the 80s. Let's just say one of the best, probably one of the best games of all time. I would say it's certainly an iconic one. Oh, the Rock Lobster already buzzing in. Wow, he's going to guess a video game runner. I was going to give you some more contextual clues. But have at it, sir. What is your guess? What theme song is this?
I'm already totally wrong, but I'm just saying Pac-Man, but it's totally wrong.
That's an iconic 80s video game, so you're right in the right genre. Alas, that is not it. But I would say this theme song is inspired, let us say, by the, some might say, depressing events over the weekend where we had one Jake Paul fighting what used to be the former Iron Mike Tyson. So that would be a clue as to what video game theme song this is. Hint, hint, Uncle Mike. Nothing? All right, there we go. What you got, Uncle Mike?
I can barely hear you because the theme music is just blasting in my ears.
All right, I'll turn it down for you so you can. I wanted you to enjoy the spirit of it. There we go. Is that better?
All right, I'm going to go with Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Yes, that is the one. All right, 1 point for Uncle Mike.
Wow, I would have never guessed that.
Uncle Mike.
Never. I didn't even know that was a game that you could play at an arcade.
Oh, well, then you're not going to have a good chance at our bonus point, which is a full point this week because it's a hard one. Mike Tyson has the game itself. You build up to Iron Mike. He is the final boss, obviously. It is called Mike Tyson's Punch-Out after all. You have to dodge his big punches and you hit him with the star punch. Great game. Little Mac is your hero. You have to work your way through a progression of harder and harder boxers to get all the way up to Iron Mike Tyson. And you buzz up. All right.
All right, you got your last. The last one you have to work through is Buster Douglas.
That's not a bad guess. Not a bad guess.
Man, you're just going with the out of the money options on all these lately, aren't you, Andrew?
I know I have no chance, so I'm just throwing caution to the wind.
I was going to ask, who is the first boss? Who is the first boxer you must face? The easiest one. It is in his name. Uncle Mike, can you steal for the win? All right, go for it.
Glass Joe.
Yes! Glass Joe, Uncle Mike. 1 point for Uncle Mike.
Who the heck is Glass Joe?
He's the most famous of them all, pretty much. He's the guy you have to beat to kick the game off. And as his name implies, he has a glass chin. He is not very good.
Well, I fall deeper into the pit.
Wow. 2 whole points for Uncle Mike. That's a body blow and then an uppercut, Mr. Rock Lobster.
Yeah, I mean, we got, 8 weeks to go?
You might have to pitch a shutout at this point, sir.
Yeah, it's going to be ugly. He's going to get one of those other WWE belts again. He's going to prance around like a king. I know. But he's come up with them this year, that's for sure.
He did surprise me pulling out Glass Joe. I mean, I could have gone like a Bald Bull or some of the other ones, but no, the first one out the bat, and he got Glass Joe. Did you know that, listeners? Do you remember yourself a little bit of the old Mike Tyson's Punch-Out? Were you remembering that fondly watching that disaster of a fight this weekend? Hit us up, let us know as we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading out there. Did you make some money on the weekend over there in some of these crazy fights they had going on this weekend? Seemed like a pretty no-brainer to put the money on Jake Paul this weekend, unfortunately. He wasn't that heavy of a favorite. I thought he'd be much higher. So, at the end of the day, the undamaged younger guy usually comes out with it, and that was the way it went this weekend. How's it going with the markets out here today? Listen, now we started out kind of mixed. The Dow was actually in the red. We were flirting kind of red, kind of green with S&P. As we're kicking off the show now, it seems like we're kicking into a little bit of red gear. Green gear. S&P up 0.5%. Dow unched to slightly up. NASDAQ up nearly 0.75%. And our old pal small caps up a little over 0.5%. And our old pal VIX Cash was hanging out at 15.75 as we kicked off the show. Puts it up 1.75 points. Looks like it's drifted down to about 15.5 now. It's puts it up about 1.5 points on the week, or at least since the Thursday show. And of course, VVIX, the vol itself, 95, still frothy, up about 4 points from where it was this time last week. All right, as our victor, and looks like I'll have to come up with another fun prize for you, Uncle Mike. There's no theme this year, so I'll have to come up with something just appropriately 80s. I'll have to go see if I can find something. But in the meantime, sir, what's catching your eye? And it looks like, at least for now, Uncle Mike type of day.
I think just with the weekend fight, the way with which it was, I didn't bet on it, but I got to say, there's just something about, I think that just like when we're just the talk around the town and just being able to say, oh, I got to get home to see the Tyson fight. It just I felt like a kid again, just hearing that and saying that, even though the fight really wasn't much of a fight. it was kind of more of like a glorified sparring session. I mean, just hearing that and saying that, did that make you guys feel like you were back in the 80s again a little bit? Just saying that and hearing that?
That's what they were banking on, right? This was entirely banked on nostalgia. They sold out Cowboy Stadium, or a good chunk of it at least. 50,000 people were suckered into ponying money for this fight. So that's crazy town to me. At the end of the day, everyone knows the Texas Commission, not exactly, let's say, cutting edge. If you want to put a fight with a 60-year-old guy, Texas is the place you go, and that's where they went. And unfortunately, it kind of played out as expected, Uncle Mike. But I'm with you. There were some nostalgia vibes. That's what kept Iron Mike within betting distance of him. People saying, oh, it's Iron Mike Tyson. Got to put money on him, right?
Well, you do. And I mean, the fact that he did technically win the first 2 rounds, I mean, kudos to the guy for doing that. I don't think I'll be able to do that when I'm 58. I don't even think I could have done that at age 47.
And what's catching your eye in today's market, sir?
All right, so we're up again, if you will, in that Friday was definitely a down day, if you will, and it looks like we are recovering, somewhat. Thursday we went below the 6,000 mark and just kept on going on Friday, and then today we have a little bit of a recovery. Can't say it's a huge one by any means. The S&P is up 26 points on the day, so bulls are out there, kind of, sort of. Some of the individual names that I'm seeing right now, Apple is up almost 2% on the day, knocking on the door at 230 again. So we do have that in terms of some other individual names with which I'm watching, as I typically always watch. We got Netflix up over 2% on the day. Tesla is all of a sudden going crazy again, up gangbusters again, up 5% on the day. So we have that. And then the other things with which I'm watching, bonds are relatively quiet on the day today, but the precious metals are deciding to catch some bids. We got silver up almost 3% on the day, gold up almost 2% on the day. So there's a lot of things happening. And the VIX is below 16 again. So I would say my assessment of the markets so far going into this week, we're being about a little more than halfway through day 1 of this week, are that we have some things that we're looking at, but nothing is really sticking out as, okay, this is the direction we're going, this is where we're at. Market still needs to kind of show its hand in that, are we going to recover from the 2 down days of last week, or is this 26-point day just a dead cat bounce? And the market really was looking to use 6,000 as a point of resistance for the S&P. And that's what I'm seeing so far.
Mr. Rock Lobster, I would ask you if you had any enduring memories of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, but it doesn't sound like you have any. So if you have any thoughts on the, shall we say, appalling display of the weekend, have at it. And then B, what caught your eye out there in today's, looks like a little bit of green on the screen, sir?
You know what? I have 2 Mike Tyson memories. One was when he fought Buster Douglas. I was living in California and we were getting back from Lake Tahoe. We drove from Lake Tahoe skiing to make the fight, and we were dumbfounded that he lost. That was pretty earth shattering, as I recall. That was like what, 91 maybe or something like that. And then a few years later, when he got out of jail, I saw his return to boxing. At the time, I got some tickets from somebody. So
Hurricane Peter McNeely?
You know what? I couldn't even tell you who it was, to be honest. It was quite a scene. It was just a scene. Mostly just you walking through the casino. Where was it? Might have been at the Bellagio, possibly. I can't remember, but just like all the people, like with all the entourages. I just remember I was kind of dating this girl at the time, and anyway, but like entourage after entourage after entourage going into the fight, and I think the fight didn't even last the first round. Tyson came out, and all I could say is I felt sorry for Tyson, getting released from jail, and it was the first guy he fought didn't stand much of a chance. So it lasted very, very short. But anyway, those are my 2 big Tyson memories from way back when. The 90s. As far as what's going on with the market, I'm actually kind of surprised at what's going on. Like, because over the weekend, there's a thing with Biden going to send long-range nuclear, not nuclear missile, but like long-range missiles to Ukraine. Like, why now? Why not, when it would have mattered like 2 years ago? It was so. I thought that was a very odd, like, make the war longer X thing, or, who knows? Maybe the Russians. I thought it was a very odd escalation. So, and I would have sworn that we would have saw a bid for vol, and it did look like it was kind of bid this morning a little bit, but the bid went away. As fast as it came, it went away. So, that is what it is. I'm looking at, I posted something on Twitter, my skewulator, and vol is definitely come off from the close Friday. So, you could believe one thing. Those strangles I was looking at in VIX for the vol show. I didn't buy them on Friday. I bid for some this morning, though, for like 242. I think they're trading right around 240 right now. So, like, I have to say, in my view, I think the market is underpriced. Like, yeah, they're 240 right now. And like, I see those strangles for like anywhere near $2.30, and I'm like, that's crazy. So, but I'll wait till they get cheaper. I bought some, and I'll buy some more. But my gosh, the market apparently doesn't care about this news. Either they don't think it's going to matter or whatever. But I thought this was a kind of a little scary escalation, to be honest. So. But stocks don't care. Tesla doesn't care. And you know what else doesn't care? Bitcoin. Now, I'm not really like a Bitcoin follower, but I do follow stocks that, I guess like Square has a Bitcoin wallet, and Hood does a lot of Bitcoining. So I've been I bought those stocks last year, kind of on the off chance something happened with it. And, Hood's up 50% in 6 weeks on mostly, I think, well, the earnings were good growth, but also on this, anything with we just whisper Bitcoin and it's like flying. And what, didn't Kathy Woods own a lot of coin? Did she sell all those shares? I remember she spent like $300 for it. And I know coin got down to the 40s, like as in $40, and now it's back up to 300. So I'm kind of curious if she still owns it, but I think the coin thing, and I haven't seen any news at all. It's mostly just the fact that it sounds like Trump will be a little more laissez-faire with respect to coin and who's running the SEC and all that. So again, that all remains to be seen. But I mean, look at what these stocks are doing. They are just flying like, crazy cakes. So, anyway, I think it is besides that, what I would call a fly in the ointment. So, Trump's coming, elected. There was, good feelings, market up, vol down. And then there has been some things like, the guy running the Senate is kind of a stuffed shirt, it appears to me. So we'll see what happens with that. But like, as far as trying to improve things, I'm not sure if I'm going to see that. And then you got this, Ukraine. I don't know. So since the election, I think most of the news has not been necessarily like positive and growth oriented. But I can sit and wait and see what happens. But the coin, anything related to Bitcoin is pretty interesting right now, and any crypto just flying off the shelves apparently. So. And I haven't been able to find one concrete reason besides just we got a president-elect named Trump, and it's not Biden or Harris. So if any listeners has any clue as to why the coin is flying off the shelf, let me know.
Well, maybe we'll get to that in a little bit on the crypto rundown with special guest Uncle Mike talking about how he loves Bitcoin. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that to him, but we do have a hot show coming up in a little bit after this one. Listeners, you want to break down all the vol, all the craziness, all the skew, all the term structure, all the madness it's popping off in crypto land. I'll be joined by Mr. Greg Magadini over there. So it should be a hot one on the crypto rundown. It's been wild times. You folks decided on our poll last week. Last week was the wildest week in the history of crypto. And this week, trumpet? I don't know. Let's find out. Let's also find out what's going on out there in the markets today, shall we, listeners? Is it a banger day out there in options land? Well, the answer is, yeah, kind of. Depends where you look. Once again, not in VIX land so much. VIX is respectable, 448,000. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing to sneeze at out there. The ADV is 856, so we're pretty much north of halfway to that already. So that in and of itself is respectable. If you're wondering what's lighting it up out there today, looks like 37,000 of the no 15 puts. Once again, these puts are on the docket, followed by 31,000 of the D's 40s, 30,000 of the D's 16 calls. Looks like we might have some vertical action there, and then 30,000 for number 4 of the Feb 19s. Interesting. And number 5, 19,000 of the Nov 16 puts. Let's just look here really quickly. What are those Feb puts trading for today, Lil? Excuse me, those Nov puts. They traded for 14 to 6. Looks like some of them printed for 24 cents earlier this morning. So there you go, listeners. You got quite the range if you like those puts. Anywhere from actually 12 cents, like even 8 cents. They traded 8 cents all the way to 24 cents. So you got 3x the range in there. Pick your poison. Are you still liking these no 15 puts, or have they exhausted themselves out there? SPY looking a little exhausted right now. 4.25 million. That's not terrible. It's not blowing the doors off either. It's a little lighter than we would expect this time of day. The ADV 7.36. The S making up for it though. The S 1.9 million. So closing in on 2 million contracts in the S. The ADV 3.17 million out there. Small caps looking hot, looking robust. 958,000 contracts on the tape out there. So we know small caps like to do their own thing, and they're doing it yet again today. Speaking of doing their own thing, once again, their top 20 most active is just filled with options that are not going out today. They are going out all over the place, including the D's 230 puts. A lot of D's going up in small caps these days. 45,000 of those bad boys going up today. So interesting stuff. And the Q is also looking pretty hot. 2.75 million contracts on the tape. The ADV 4.15 million out there. Let's keep going to the single names. Is it a banger day in single name land? Yeah, it's all right. 255. That's kind of, what we kind of expect these days. A little lighter than that, and you think it's kind of a light day. Heavier than that, you're starting to look a little bit more respectable. 255. That gets us to the Rock Lobster's favorite, Mara. Man, this one, talk about just flirting with greatness, flirting with levels that it hasn't seen in some time, flirting with the 30 handle. I've been saying for a while, this name's vacillating between 15 and 30 for the better part of this year. It gets down to 15, it bounces, comes right back down. Got close to 30 again this past week. How high did we get? We got up to a little bit north of 25, about 25 and a quarter, looks like. And then just giving it all back, listeners. $20 and change right now. 2012 actually off about nearly $1 or 4.5%. So we've been talking about those size Jan 30s that have been open out there for a while. Somebody was really hoping for a resurgence there in Mara. Seemed like they might get it. Those 30s finally maybe going to spring to life and then coming right back down the other side. Well, they still have till Jan, obviously, but the clock is ticking on those bad boys. Number 10, Mara. 255,000 contracts on the tape. Number 9, good old MicroStrategy. 371.71, up $31. So if you don't feel like buying your own Bitcoin, you want to pay someone else to buy your Bitcoin for you. There you go. MicroStrategy popping hard today. Number 9. 268,000. We were talking about this on the crypto rundown last week. Maybe we'll talk about it again this week. What is the point of MicroStrategy? Why can't you buy your own Bitcoin? I suppose there is some argument to be made, maybe for leverage, but it's like with Kathy Wood. You want to pay someone else to buy Tesla for you? I guess you can. It's just a strange notion to me. But I digress. Number 9, MicroStrategy. Number 8, I haven't talked about this name in a while. This is Walmart. 284 on the tape. Let's see. They're not even popping off yet. I think they're coming up tomorrow. Yeah, so not even popping off today, but already getting a nice little boost on the volume front. $84, pretty much even off about nearly 20 cents today or so out there. So little bit of downside on Walmart, 284, and the number 8 spot. Number 7 is the Amazonians, 201.85, off about 3/4 of a buck. 336,000 contracts on the tape for number 7. Number 6, keeping it with the A tech names, it's AMD, 536, up 536, or 140.25 out there right now, trading 415,000 contracts on the tape for AMD. So AMD, number 6, 415,000 contracts on the tape. Number 5, this name, will it be delisted? Will it not? Apparently, the answer for right now is no, and that's enough to pop it hard. This is a super microcomputer, $22, trading a little bit north of $3, almost $4, about 370 or so to the upside today, nearly 20%. So again, the stay of execution for SMCI, number 5, 485,000 contracts. Number 4 is the fruit company, back to A tech names, Apple, number 4, 546,000, 229.32, up 432, popping hard, nearly 2%. Why? More buyers than sellers out there, listeners. Number 3, it's Palantir, coming back down the other side after being just on the left side of the parabola for a while. 62.25 right now, off $3.50 or 5.6%. That's after just rampaging this name. Just in the last month, it's up 20. It's up 44% over the past month. So it's got some room to give back on the upside. Year to date, it is up only 274% or 45 handles. So yeah, it can afford to give back a whopping 360 today. Palantir, number 3, 874. Number 2, it's NVIDIA, 1.8 million contracts on the tape. 139.80 off 220 or 1.5%. I said number 2. What could usurp it? Well, maybe in the Trump era, maybe this is the new thing. Tesla back at the number 1 spot, just ever so slightly. 1.88 million contracts on the tape. 339.22, up $18.50 or 5.75%. Why not? More buyers than sellers out there, listeners. Obviously, a lot of hope for Musk and his companies in the Trump regime. He was at the fights with Trump this weekend. They are kind of buddies apparently now. So, talking about maybe relaxing self-driving rules in the U.S. Either way, more buyers than sellers for Tesla, number 1, 1.88 million out there. I mentioned Walmart. They are popping off tomorrow. Earnings still coming at you fast and furious. If you like, you sink your teeth into some micro analysis, some single names, you got you covered. Lowe's also on Tuesday. Wednesday, NIO. If you like some Chinese electric cars, there you go. Also, big box retail this week. Target also on Wednesday this week. We got TJX and some name called NVDA, I believe. I'm not sure. I think they're Dutch. And then Snowflake. Of course, a lot of eyes going to be glued to the aforementioned NVDA on Wednesday. So that's still a big event. Thursday, John Deere, BJ's, and Intuit out there, listeners. And let's look at a couple. We got brand new reports for you folks because we like you. Hot off the presses. Let's go out to Walmart. Talk about them lighting it up just a few minutes ago. Walmart, when we ran this report this morning, 84.25 is where they were trading. They were pricing in 4.25. In the past, they moved 4.11. So not really pricing in ton of action out there. Pretty much coming right in line. I am kind of curious. Let's look really quickly. Listen, let's see what Walmart is up to today. The most active contract out there in Walmart today, 49,000 of the Jan 95s. By the way, listeners, we are trading at 83.95 in Walmart. So Jan 95s. Looks like it might be a 90-95 vertical. Out there were a lot of Jan trading out here in good old Walmart today. 95s? Are you feeling the animal spirits, listeners, in Walmart? The 93s trading for 89 cents, nearly 10,000 times today. The 90s trading for $1.25. The 95s traded for 63 cents. Like they might have been overwriting those. That makes a little bit more sense as an overwrite. A lot of Jan upside trading today, listeners. Are you buying or selling Jan upside out here in Walmart? A lot of it's flying fast and furious today. If Walmart's not your bag, allow me to present Target one day later. 152.13 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $12.90. In the past, they moved $14.06. So a little bit off the top in Target land. Is that merited? And then let's go out to NVDA. Again, that Dutch firm taking the world by storm. Popping off after the bell on the 20th. About 142 is where they were trading when we ran this report. They're pricing in $12.70. In the past, they moved about $11.70. So about worth of extra juice on top. Is that too much? Is that too little? NVIDIA is kind of moving all over the place these days. We also have Snowflake that same day. 126 is where they were trading. They're pricing in 1344. In the past, they moved 1532. So another little haircut right off the top. How about BIDU the next day, the 21st? 8460 is where they were trading. They're pricing in 472. In the past, they moved 416. So some juice right back in there. Let's go out to INTU, 21st after the bell as well. 687.87 is where they were trading. They're pricing in 33.74. In the past, they moved 35.79. So a little more north of $2 off the top there into it as well. Is this the season for taking some juice off the top? I don't know. Let's find out, listeners. Our long-term average is hanging out at 114%. And with 740 names reporting now for the season, we are back down to earth slightly. We were north of 120 for a while, even 125 for a while. Back down to about 115%, which is right in line with our long-term average. Still juicy, still frothy, still elevated, but coming back to earth a little bit out there. But we have some hot names popping off this week. We'll see how that changes things. You want to see all that for yourselves, you know where to go. TheOptionsInsider.com is the place to go. Click on the Options News and Articles tab. I literally just skim the surface. There are hundreds of tickers. You can do all that for you. And you can go deeper. There's more data there than I don't even get into. Implied versus previous, 30-day implied. The implied without the earnings, they actually pull what we believe to be the earnings juice out for you so you can see the real just implied. Historical 90-day, all kinds of stuff. It's a pretty great package. And you can't beat the price. It's free, so get on over there, check it out as we keep on rolling and go to the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Let's get out there. Let's get weird. Let's get wild. Maybe even whimsical. Let's find out. Let's kick it off here. This is a newcomer. I love when the newcomers join us on the show. This is Matterport Inc., ticker symbol MTTR. This is in a 3D spatial mapping company out of where else? Good old California. Went public in a SPAC back in 2021. So we know all those worked out very well. 468, kind of unched today. Let's see. On the year, this one's kind of had a wild year. It was 261 a year ago, so it's net up a little over $2 or about 77%. They kind of came for it for the first half of the year till about April, mid-April. They crushed it down to about $1.73. That was the low for the year. And then in one day, April 19th to April 20th, it went from $1.74 up to $4.80. And it's kind of been vacillating in this $4 and change range ever since. So that has the whiff of a little bit of a corporate action out here. Listen, I'll have to go dig and see exactly. But usually, the only thing that makes me question is that the stock isn't quite as glued to one price as it usually is after a corporate action like this. Obviously, it depends. Is it a cash deal? Is it a stock deal? That would obviously impact it a bit. But when a stock shoots up to this new level and kind of hangs out there ever since, usually that's a sign that there's a corporate action. I'll have to go dig and see exactly what is afoot out here. But let's find what our Eye of Sauron found out here today. It's pretty sizable out here for Matterport. Let's go pull up what is the ADV for everyone's new favorite Matterport listeners. Oh, 822. It's actually higher than I thought. So I would guess a couple hundred. So there you go. 822 contracts a day out here in Matterport. Guess how many they did today, listeners? Oh, only 10,000 in one clip. That was the April 4 put. Somebody came out and said, I don't know if I'm feeling too optimistic about where we're trading right now, folks. So how are we on the April 4 puts? He got a market of, this is the quality market. You know the things are liquid when you get a market like this. He got no bid at 45 cents. Those are my favorite, listeners. No bid. We will pay nothing for these puts. We refuse to have any semblance of any bid for these puts. Let's just go, and I want to make sure. Let's see. They ended up trading 32.5 cents. So obviously doing it on some splits here with no bid at 45. So kind of a weird one. You think if they were showing something, they might have got some. I don't know. Let's look here. Let's see if any others traded today to maybe clear things up. They traded 2 minutes later. Then the market was 20 cents at 45, and they traded for 20 cents 50 times. And then they were no bid at 30. Market's all over the place. About 9 minutes later, and they traded for 30 cents. And then they were no bid at 35, and then they traded for 35 cents. Actually, no, 20 cents. So all over the place. So Mr. Rock Lobster, a weird one. They put up a weird execution. I'm going to guess you probably like this one better as a sale. But then again, we'll have to go figure out what has driven Matterport up. Is it poised to come tumbling back off its lofty heights, sir? In which case, those 4 puts are a screaming buy. What say you, sir?
You know, if you call a stock Matterhorn, what is it? MTTR?
Matterport. Close.
Matterport. I know, but it's too close to Matterhorn.
It is obviously intentional, yes.
Yeah, it's a little, you're dancing with the devil when you call your stock that, I think. But anyway, the digital, it has some revenue, but the classic is no bid at 45, and then they trade 32 cents, all those puts. I would say, an April put buy, maybe somebody's trying to lock in some gains, or kind of a hard, tough one. But yeah, I do think they're buying them, but why? And of course, they think the stock's going back to $2. That's why. So I don't think it did have some huge earnings gap here. In maybe a takeover, not quite sure why, but it was sitting in the 2s and then became in the 4s and since has not left. So maybe they think whatever caused the stock to rip is falling apart again.
Yeah, I'm looking here. They are about to be acquired. There's a pending acquisition by CoStar Group for $5.50 a share. So that's obviously substantially north of where the stock is right now. So obviously there's some lingering concerns about whether this is going to go through. Maybe also leading to our friend gobbling up some puts here. Because you think if you're going to pay $5.50 a share, the stock would be, I don't know, a little closer to $5.50. Call me crazy.
Yeah, you know what? If they buy these, is it a stock takeover? Maybe they get the acquirer for, I don't know, but it just feels like a bunch of juice that's going to die. But I could be wrong on that.
It does. People looks like they're surprised because this company makes no money and they paid a substantial premium over the $2 and change stock price. So maybe that's why it hasn't gone through yet. But either way, folks, this was back in September they were talking about it, and obviously the deal was announced earlier this year, so it still hasn't gone through. Listeners, what are your thoughts on these puts? Would you be a buyer or a seller of the 4 puts for 32.5 cents in, now I'm going to start saying Matterhorn because the Rock Lobster said it, Matterport. Out here. Let's keep rolling. Let's see what else we can add to our odd, fun, unusual mix. Let's go back to Bloom Energy. We talked about this one a few times in the past. You know them, they market and make solid oxide fuel cells. The hot thing. Fuel cells, all the rage with the kids. 23.77 up 260 or a little over 12% just today. So apparently fuel cells are hot with the kids today. A year ago they were 12.86, so they're up nearly $11 or 85%. Almost, all of that, more than all of that, because they were down on the year until right before the election, October 24th, 9.19. They actually look like they even hit 8.41 at one point, and now trading nearly $24, so almost 3x since the election. So quite the tier. Apparently, somebody thinks solid oxide fuel cells. They have an agreement with American Electric Power, apparently. Oh, they're going to start. Maybe this is a salvation for fuel cells because everyone's saying how power hungry AI is and they can't get enough power to fuel their data centers. They're spinning up old, dead, dangerous nuclear reactors like 3 Mile Island. There's a deal here, it looks like, for fuel cells to power some data centers. So maybe that's the future. We can't put them in cars. Maybe we'll use fuel cells to power data centers. They take whatever energy they can get these days. But let's see. Bloom Energy, so a good year. Actually, really just a good month The rest of the year was crap until this past month. Let's go out here. Let's see what's going on out there today. It looks like somebody maybe is feeling those animal spirits, Mr. Rock Lobster, because somebody came in today and they said, Jan 30s, how are they? Again, the stock 23 3/4, listeners. They got 105 at $1.20, so they're already pretty jacked. And they said, we will pay $1.20, 5,120 times, 82 vol. The stock right now is 23.74. When the trade went up, it was a little bit lower, 23.36. But still, at the time, that was a new 52-week high for the stock. You're not getting any earnings in these calls. The next announcement is on February 13th, so no joy there. This is just what it looks like, Mr. Rock Lobster. Straight up swinging for the heavens here in Bloom. Remember, the stock just less than a month ago was $8.41. Now we have somebody paying $1.20 just for the privilege of owning the Jan 30s through Jan expiration. What say you, Mr. Rock Lobster?
Yeah, Bloom Energy was one of my stock lists. What my compadre Capital Gains, Frank, they had potential upside. So yes, have you noticed the trend of like all the big megatech AI companies contracting directly for power? Because they probably realized if what befalls them befell Germany, where the electricity prices went through the moon, they might not have any power to power AI. So I guess Bloom, I didn't see it was an earnings call, but I guess, again, it like the future powering a new place to power. So it looks like it has a shot. These calls, I mean, right now they're kind of riding the riding sort of this wave of this power demand for AI. I think that's kind of a good growth area for the market. Like I think from what I can tell, it looks like power demand, AI wise could be infinite, really. And the only thing you're going to be able to power with anyway is nuclear energy. At least what we have technology today. So this has a shot. I mean, this company does have revenue. So yeah, I mean, these calls are very spec, but who knows what could happen? The stock's already up, what, $8, $10 in a month. So yeah, because I mean, this stock it's been in the $10 range forever, and all of a sudden it's $24. So it's who knows how high these can go at this point. So I would not stand in the way of this stock.
So you're saying buy all these bad boy, what are these? BE Jan 30s. Rock Lobster loves them. Buy them with two hands, he says. Listen. And let's see what Uncle Mike has to say. It's Monday. It's time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, Uncle Mike, sir, the floor is yours. What you got for us on the block of strategery this week?
The block of strategery is going to strategically go to the covered call. And the reason for the block of strategery making such a trip is the fact that markets are a little bit high right now, if you believe in comparison to previous markets. So in other words, if you think the S&P is going to go to 8,000 next year, the market's actually very low. But in comparison to previous markets, the market is still very near the all-time highs. And so what I want to emphasize today is the fact that if you don't feel comfortable selling your stock right where it is, and maybe, you know what, I just want to ride it up a little bit further, well, a covered call might not be a bad idea. In fact, when doing something like that, you're kind of giving yourself discipline in that if you want to sell it at a certain level and you don't really know if you're going to have the ability to actually pull the trigger when it goes there, because you just kind of want to have that feeling of just looking the other way and watching it continue to go up, but that's really not the right thing to do with where you are right now. Selling a covered call at your target price might be something with which to consider. Now, of course, when you do that, Murphy's Law dictates the stock is going to go significantly higher. and after it happens, but you're able to stay disciplined and you're able to get paid to actually do it. And if it takes a couple months to get there or a few years to get to your level, well, in the meantime, you're collecting income by selling premium on the stock you already own. So I want to emphasize that strategy or that thought with a covered call based on the fact that we are near new all-time highs. Now, the other part of a covered call that I think it's important to have an emphasis on, especially if you're looking to do some new things in the new year, you want to revamp your portfolio and how you're looking at your retirement, I think it's important to have some section of your retirement in there for the covered calls. Now, the reason I say that is twofold. Number one, it is an alternative, and it's something to where you can view this as a way to have exposure to volatility as an asset class. So in other words, if volatility is higher, you're theoretically short volatility. The other thing is you have theta as an asset class, so time decay can be on your side with it. But the main reason with which I think that covered calls should be an important part of your retirement overall picture, if you will, is based upon sequence of return. And so from there, if let's say we have another year like 2022, where the markets just go down, we were down roughly 20% in 2022. And in that year, let's say that you had just stock or just bond holdings. You had stocks and bonds, let's say. Both stocks and bonds were down. Well, if you were to take money out of your stocks or your bonds at that point in time, it hurt you because you essentially were forced to sell the low because you had to, because you're retired and you need the money to buy groceries. However, if you had covered calls as an alternative investment and an asset class, then by doing that, you're collecting premium as the stocks go down. Now, does this mean that it's this perfect thing to where you get income, it's quick, it's easy, it's simple? Absolutely not. There's quite a bit, as someone who does covered calls and retirement portfolios for clients, there's quite a bit to it. But what this does do is this gives you the ability to have a source of income in case there is a down market, in case there is a sideways market. So that way you don't have to have the concern of selling your stocks. Now, of course, in bull markets, it will underperform. No question about that. But it's an alternative, and it's another way with which to play the market. Now, in about 8 minutes, I'll be doing a webinar on covered calls. So if you're interested in this, I'll actually have Bill Ulivari as a guest. The two of us will be doing this together. He's a seasoned trader, been trading since 1982. Feel free to tune into it. Go to adaptivewebinars.com. And that is my strategy block.
Mr. Bill. Terrible, terrible human being. Check him out over there on Uncle Mike's webinar coming up in a little bit as we go, listeners, around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on until our next episode of the old OB, which is coming up on Thursday with the Flow Master. Before we get there, though, we got some hot stuff popping off right now, including our question of the week. And let's get really quickly, speaking of hot stuff, to our question of the week from last week. How did that play out? We asked you quite simply last week, vol went to die the last time Trump took office. Will we get a repeat of that? Will VIX close in single digits at least once? We emphasize that, at least once next year. It was fast and furious. You folks, no took it early with about 2/3 of the vote, but as we got down to the wire, it got down to the wire in the voting as well. It ended up being almost exactly split. 50.8% saying no, 49.2% saying. Doesn't get much closer than that, listeners. So our audience very evenly split on that one last week. Interesting. Doesn't seem like we're as split on this one this week, but we shall see. It just went live right before the show, so we're still in the early blush of this. We said, hey, rumors are swirling about Mr. Buffett and his growing pile of cash. He's hoarding it like Smog the Dragon, sitting on his big mound, his pile of gold, listener. We said quite simply, what is he up to Why do you think he's hoarding $325 billion and growing in cash? It's probably 350 by the time we're talking. Who knows? Keeps growing all the time. I gave you pretty much 4 choices. Well, 3 and the kind of infamous other. He's waiting for a pullback out there, or he's saving for a big acquisition, or he's getting ready to pay a big dividend. That'd be a sizable one. Or he's just out of ideas, or you just choose other. Let's go to Mr. Rock Lobster first, sir. Mr. Rock Lobster. Well, first off, are you surprised that our audience was as evenly split on our VIX single digits next year poll? B, what do you think Buffett's up to with this 325 and growing pile of cash? And then C, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week?
Well, you can't buy stuff unless you have cash. That's, so I don't think he's doing anything that he doesn't normally do. I mean, what is he sitting on in his Apple position? Like 10 times his money or something? It's pretty big win, I think. I mean, at least 4x, maybe 5x. So maybe just sees that, Apple, he's still got a lot of it run its course. So I maybe just looking for other opportunities. I think he's more opportunity based. Apple his Apple probably just got too big relative. So he just, he didn't get rich for being stupid. So a prudent change, but and maybe he's going to find other things to buy. I am surprised on the results of the poll a little bit. So, I think we could have a very, kind of like what we've had the last couple of weeks, where like everybody's kind of riding on these feelings because it's new. Maybe they come in and start slashing government spending. So this whole debt thing gives people more confidence. And when you have more confidence, vol goes lower. So that's what we're looking at here. So I think Buffett is always, to be honest, always looking for an acquisition. So it's just, he raises money to go buy others, to go buy other stuff. So I would say saving for an acquisition.
And what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week, sir?
Yeah. Rest of the week. I got to hop to my next class. An odd week. We have NVIDIA earnings. I'm going to assume that they're going to have outrageous demand for all of their chips again, and the stock will probably be up another $10. So, and I think, like every once in a while, the market needs to be reminded that somebody is making money in AI. So if Palantir is selling, NVIDIA is selling chips, everybody's happy. So with that, 888-TRADE-01 if you want any info at Option Pit.
There you go. Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What do you think Buffett's up to? And then B, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week until the Thursday show?
He's got something. He's got his eye on something, but I can't tell you what because I don't know. So I do think that's the case. And in terms of what I'm keeping an eye on until the next show, I'm seeing if we can make another run at 6,000 and then seeing if the bonds get a little bit of life in the bid. And then just continuing to watch the metals. It could get exciting again.
And if folks want more Uncle Mike goodness in their lives, where should they go? What should they do?
A couple things. You can follow me on Twitter at Mike Tosaw, Tosaw. I try to put out a lot of content. Also, visit my website if you're looking for a financial advisor who's not afraid of the option product, stcharleswealth.com. And if you want to check out my webinar starting in about 2.5 minutes, go to adaptivewebinars.com.
There you go. Check them out with Mr. Bill over there at adaptivewebinars.com. While you're checking things out online, make sure you check out our friends over there at Tasty Trade, tastytrade.com/podcast. Easy place to go. That lets them know you're coming from a podcast. Let them know that you heard about them, of course, on the old OB. They'll be very thankful. And it keeps the show coming at you. It's been coming to you now for quite some time. By the way, right now, you folks are thinking Buffett's waiting for a market pullback. 70% of you going that way. 20% say he's saving for an acquisition, and 10% say he's just out of ideas. He's done. No one's saying he's saving for a big divvy. So no joy there. Get over there at Options. Make your voice heard. It's going to do it for us on the old OB today. Back again in a little bit to talk all the madness of the crypto market. And man, is it mad. Not with our buddy Mr. Bill, but actually with our buddy Mr. Greg Magadini over there. So he'll be joining us to break down all the mad vol out there in the world of crypto. Even if you're a crypto hater, this might be a time you might want to start paying attention to what the heck is. Just familiarize yourself with what is going on out there. We're going to do our ablest to catch you up coming up in a little bit on the Crypto Rundown. And then back again with our usual array of content this week until we're back again on Thursday with the Flow Master, another episode of The Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Tasty Trade. You take the unbeaten path. You root for the away team. You wear shorts in winter. You don't put ketchup on a hot dog. So why wouldn't you trade with a broker that lets you go your own way? Tasty Trade. Stocks, options, futures, and more. You choose. You trade. Chart moves with hundreds of custom indicators. Stare at the candles till you see them in your sleep. See it, click it, trade it on mobile, web, or desktop. Supported by a trade desk that knows how traders think. The data, the tools, the knowledge. Get what you need to make smart moves. Go to tastytrade.com/pod to see for yourself, genius. Tasty Trade Incorporated is a registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA, NFA, and SIPC. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.